You know, this chapter confirms one thing that I have been thinking about this arc for a while, but I'm going to say that until it is over, and I'll discuss it one way or another. The fate of the future lies on the new and upcoming heroes. However, if someone can foresee the future, there's no point of predicting when you know the result. It's all set and there's nothing you can do about it, right? This chapter sets up the fate of the heroes to be challenged on whether the future is predetermined or it can be altered. As expected, Overhaul goes through transformation that practically says, "This is my real power." In a shonen fashion, it begins the hype thread of a new form. Thus, Overhaul has become a real threat with high difficulty setting. Deku's tried to slow him down with rocks and such, but he's like the final boss in a survival game. He can't be stopped by one or two objects. The situation has gotten tough for Deku, as he is the only one that can really fight, yet that shouldn't be his main priority. Aizawa may have been captured, which makes it tougher on the heroes. It does create a real tension of heroes being at disadvantage, even when they outnumber Overhaul. It only took the last boss to create tension. Night can also fight, in which he takes over from that point. The one part that strikes me is when Overhaul spills the news of Muriel not having a quirk anymore to everyone. That news got to sting bad to Deku and Night-Eye, especially Night-Eye, and he really shows. It adds more heartbreaking feeling when he recalls the moment Muriel joins his team. Essentially, it becomes Night-Eye's focus chapter. It's sad that Night-Eye, who appears strict and somewhat uncaring, is actually quite the opposite. He really cares for Muriel and acknowledges him as his great student. Even so, the most important thing to him is to keep Muriel safe. It's a shame that it ended up being this way, but at least he is not dead, and that's all that matters. The highlight is the narrative storytelling of Night-Eye and his struggle from his quirk. He can't see into the future and how will it end. However, he can change the course of his destination. So even if that person's death arrives like tomorrow, the best he can do is to add the event in between, but never alter the bullet point. He can have that person take a different route, yet the end will come no matter what. It's like Final Destination. It's inevitable. It adds a tragic note that he in fact uses his quirk on Overhaul and already determined that Night-Eye will be defeated. However, he doesn't want to accept the end path for the students because it leads to their tragic downfall. It's profoundly addressed by, instead of Night-Eye sees the tragic end, he tries to see the good end. Only it is empty. That leaves a sorrowful feeling in him. This arc has plenty of narrative storytelling and they have been pretty good. This one is more of realization that hope is nowhere to be seen, hence the title. I thought it was well done in a sad note. It's not because if there's truly the end of the heroes, rather how Night-Eye has to suffer from his own quirk. Looking into the future like All Might's death is a scary feat to hold, and this only leaves him lost. Is he dead? Did Genius survive? The idea is that Night-Eye foresees it as a total loss, which leaves him no hope. Deku, being the protagonist, decides to borrow a few of old shonen tropes to his arsenal. One is to gain a power-up in a sense that is 20% one for all. It's rather tricky that on one hand, it makes sense that not only his quirk use is based on percentage, but it can harm him bad depending on how far he goes. On the other hand, it has that feeling of plot convenience due to resorting to power up rather than throw everything you got. It's ironic. The other one is, I guess Deku can read mind, but he is hell-bent to change the future no matter the cost. Joking aside, it is a coincidence and it is the narrative approach for the protagonist to change the outcome. The only question is, can he really? The hype is definitely strong, and I can't wait to see how this will end. The visual is pretty solid. I did have to check it twice with the early action scenes, but it is nicely drawn in the end. Night-Eye taking the hit was pretty damn brutal. Probably the most brutal display of the series so far. The narrative flow is pretty solid, creating a sad lost hope for Night Eye that has been in his mind for a while. The last couple of pages gives that sensation of last stand inbound. It's going to be the climax. This is a pretty good chapter that showcased Night Eye as somewhat depressing character because of his quirk. The future is set in his eyes, but Deku is going to break that future and change it by stepping up to overhaul in the last high climax. Time to end this, Deku. Do it for Muriel and Night Eye. I'm giving this chapter an 8. It seems like the next chapter could be the end of the battle, or maybe there'll be a twist. It's all about changing the future. What are your thoughts of this chapter? Do you believe that the next chapter will end the battle? Do you think 20% one for all power up can be the determined factor to end Overhaul and his regime? Maybe there will be a surprise, or maybe it will actually be the answer to everything. I also don't think Night Eye is dead, but I do think this is a reason to have him out of commission for whatever the next mission base will be about. It's kind of like how Aizawa got beat down so badly, but he still could do some teaching, but just not any fighting. It's only a matter of time until we find out what's the next focus after this arc concludes. And that will do it for the review. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you like this and want more of this, subscribe to my channel, and my world will be yours to stay. Until next time, take care.